Hey guys, this is Valentin from YVBEAT, and today I want to tell you how you get to that melodic techno sound like fur coat. And if you want to support me, if you want to get the whole project file of this video, just take a look at the description on the top. There is a link, and I want to make the whole project file available for you with all the samples, all the presets, and all the MIDIs, just for a very small amount of money. So with that being said, just let's start. How I started with this is I just went for a straight tempo like 124, which is very common for that kind of techno style. And I start off with the main foundation of it all. So of course, I usually start with the drums, and I start with a kick and the right bass going with that. You can hear that the bass is a little bit longer than the kick, which makes a lot of sense, because you should choose to either go for a longer bass and a shorter kick, or a longer kick and a shorter bass. In this case here, I went for a bass sound, which is just made in the analog with a square, and its decay is pretty long, and it also has a longer release time, which has then to be combined with a rather shorter kick. The initial kick sample was pretty short, but I wanted to make it a little bit shorter even than that. So what I did was just shortening this whole sample, making a little fade out here, and then I worked on the bass sound. To not make it too bright, I got rid of all the highs by using this auto filter. You wouldn't have to do that. You could also do that in the filter section of the synth, but I kind of tend to use it with the auto filter because of automation. I also like to just shape the sound with the resonance, and I did that here as well. So that really changes the whole sound again. And I also used the drum bass here again, just to boost the transients and give it a little bit more compression and a small amount of drive. And then what I did was adding a chorus. Not that it goes too crazy, but I just want to add a little bit of an interesting thing on top of that. And this chorus makes it a little bit wider than it was initially. You can listen to that without the chorus. It's not too much. It's very, very small amount, of course, but it changes a lot in my opinion. And what I also did to create additionally more reverb was sending it out to this reverb here. But there's also nothing special here. So that's how I started. And then I added just 16 of this shaker sound, which doesn't really sound like a normal shaker, so to say, but I just got rid of the whole attack here, because I really like the sustain of this sample, but I didn't like the attack too much because it just takes off a little bit of the tempo, and it sounds like it's a little bit behind. That's much more on point, much more straightforward, and I liked it for the sound. And I also used the auto pan on that to make it a little bit more interesting. It wanders between the speakers over 8 bars. And next thing is a very short hi-hat. There's a small amount of delay on the main sound, but additionally to that I also send it to a bus. And here is another delay and a filter delay. So there's a little bit more rhythmical variation in that going on. And you can hear that it's it's panned more on the right side. So there's just more going on in that direction as well. I like to do that a lot, and you don't hear it when all the elements come together, but it's good for starting a track. It makes it much more interesting. And to set it a little bit apart from the main sound, I use the reverb of that. But again, nothing special, just 50% amount of wetness on this reverb, and that's it. And so far it sounds like that. And then I just wanted to put in a little more of the lower frequencies for the hi-hat. What I did was just using this sample. It sounds pretty low, very analog. I additionally boosted it with the saturator and a little bit of reverb on the end. And to make it stand out a little bit more, I also added this hi-hat. It sounds exactly the same, so it plays the same thing, but it adds up pretty well. That's it with the hi-hats. Then I also played this clap. Didn't change anything here, only a little bit of reverb on that. Same reverb I used for the bass sound, as funny as it sounds, but it worked. The only thing that's maybe different from a normal pattern is that it's not just playing on the 2 and 4, but on the 8. It gives it a little bit more drive on the whole track, and I love that. And it's like a question, and to that I found it interesting to put in this rim shot. Again, I didn't do anything but placing it at the right point, using the right sample. And I panned it a little bit on the left side because we have a little bit on the right side from this hi-hat going on. So it's always good to place things on both sides, but they have to match out in the end. So it's not too much on one side. Besides that, on the rhythmical side, there's only a lot of build-up stuff going on, like the crash here. And the only thing I did for that was making an automation for the hall. It's a large hall here. And I started off with a higher level of wetness and went down with that to make it more dry. So it feels like it's coming from somewhere and getting closer to you. And I did the same thing for snares. And they sound like this. Therefore, I used an echo, so the wetness goes down and down and down, and in the end a little bit up. And what I did as well was adding a filter automation here. I used it just in the sample. That's also doable. So it starts with a high cut that is pretty far down and goes up, 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 up. And it builds this huge build up for the whole section here. So in total, it sounds like this. Then I added an effect, which was just a vocal sample, and I just reversed that. You can see it here. I added a little bit of echo, and I did an automation as well. That's awesome so far. And then I just used a very basic brass sound, which is very common as well. Only thing I did in terms of the notes was just using first off the bass note and then adding the octave to that. So it's not always the same thing. plays on every second bar. And the only thing I really automated here was the wetness of the echo. So it goes up, 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 up on the bill. And what I did in addition to that was just switching in between the frequencies. So I was opening the high cut more and more. But it also happens here, 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 and towards the end it goes more up. That's basically it here. Then there is one more synth that is just adding up to the build-up. That sounds awesome. I did an automation on that with the frequency again. So I used the high cut filter here, and I'm going up and up and up and up. What you could also do is use all the other parameters here, just making it a little bit noisy, for example. I only used the analog again for that, and just a saw wave, and that's pretty much it. You could play around with the beat repeat here. I didn't do that. You could play around, and you could also go crazy with the echo here, but I thought it wasn't really needed. Then the only thing that's left is the lead sound, which is probably the most interesting part. Just a 1-bar pattern. The only thing that really makes it super interesting is the decay that is automated here all the time. There is an automation going on also between first bars here, and that really makes it. And there is a lot of noise going on. So what I did was just increasing the noise level here. And making it a little bit more interesting than that. Also adding a little bit more vibrato. Here it is with a very low decay again. Then I also go up with reverb. It starts off with a pretty high reverb because it sounds like an introduction to this video here. You could take that out later on, but I like things coming from a lot of reverb, going a little bit drier, and then for build-ups I use a lot of reverb again. And yeah, then in addition to that I only used these echo again. I also made an automation with that, but it's not too crazy what's going on here. And I also changed the audio rate pan. So the pan goes pretty wild on the end of the track. And you can hear that there are always these small transitions where you feel like, okay, now something is changing, but I go back to the old pattern. And that's really what I find is probably the most important thing to learn from this video, that you can use one synth for so many different occasions. So you can use this one thing for a build-up alone. You don't need any build-ups in addition to that.